Welcome to the regular City Council meeting of February 7th. Glad everybody's here. We'll call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum, and we'll declare it open. If you'll stand with me and join me in the pledge and invocation, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'll join me in prayer, please. Father God, we're so grateful for the safety of the ice storm, that fortunately we didn't have outages and things of that nature. We thank you for your provision for us. Just be with our first responders and our city employees out in our neighborhoods this week. Just keep them safe. We pray for wisdom and guidance during this meeting. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, Council, do you have an opportunity to review the minutes of the meeting of January 18th, 2022?
Move to approve the minutes of January the 18th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Council. All right, we're to citizen comments. Does anybody have any comments for the Council regarding any of the agenda items this evening? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Pardon me, a little tongue-tied today. These items are considered to be routine and will be enacted in one motion without discussion unless a council member or citizens request them to be discussed and voted on separately. The consent agenda includes items E3, E4, E5, E6, F1, and F2. Would anybody like these broken apart for any reason? Okay.
Move to approve consent. Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Council. Okay, the double asterisk consent agenda. These items are considered routine and will be enacted in one motion, subject to the staff review letter, without discussion unless a council member or citizen requests a specific item be discussed and voted on separately. These items include G4, G5, and G6. Would anybody like these broken apart for any reason?
Move to approve the double consent agenda, subject to staff review.
Second.
Okay, motion, couple of seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, at this time, we're going to open public hearing. Linda, if you'll read D1 for us, please.
Ordinance 6453, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman establishing maximum reasonable and prudent rates of speed along the northbound frontage road of US 75 from FM 1417 to Center Street in the corporate limits of Sherman, Mason County, Texas, fixing penalties for violation thereof, declaring an emergency, providing for severability, providing for a repealer, finding that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is noticed and is open to the public as required by law.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Clint?
This ordinance is a request from TxDOT. We've had several of these. We've reduced the speeds on 75 main lanes for construction purposes, and also the southbound frontage road in this area. TxDOT requested that we reduce the speed from 50 miles an hour to 45 miles an hour on the northbound frontage road between 1417 and Center Street. This allows them to save a little bit of money on traffic control, on the size of traffic control that the state would require based on the speed limit, and in general, reducing the speed through construction zones is always a pretty good idea. So once construction is complete, there will be a speed study through the whole corridor and reestablish speed limits based on the results of that study.
Okay. Thank you, Clint. Is there anyone here to address this item this evening? Okay. If not, we'll move on to D2. Linda, if you'll read D2, D3, and D4 together, please.
Ordinance 6454, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman, amending Section 12, Ordinance Number 2280, so as to include certain property within the C1 Retail Business District, 01, 75, and 82 Overlay District, located in the 7,000 to 7,600 blocks of South US Highway 75, being 10.113 acres in the Benjamin Lindsay Survey, abstract number 733. 107 Parsons Venture Limited, owner, Dolstein Partners LLC, prospective buyer, Bowler Engineering, civil engineer, Kurtz Bedford Associates Incorporated, surveyor, providing a penalty not to exceed $2,000, providing a repealing savings clause, severability clause, and an effective date, Finding that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed was noticed and is open to the public as required by law. Ordinance 6455, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman amending Section 12, ordinance number 2280, so as to include certain property within the R2 multifamily residential district, 7,000 to 7,600 blocks of South US Highway 75, being 46.962 acres in the Benjamin Lindsay Survey, abstract number 733. 107 Parsons Venture Limited, owner Dusty Partners LLC, prospective buyer Bowler Engineering, civil engineer Curtis Bedford Associates Incorporated, surveyor. Providing a penalty not to exceed $2,000, providing a repealing savings clause, severability clause, and an effective date. Finding that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed was noticed and is open to the public as required by law. Ordinance 6456, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman amending Section 12, ordinance number 2280, so as to include certain property within the M1 Light Manufacturing District, 01, 75, and 82 Overlay District, located in the 7,000 to 7,600 blocks of South US Highway 75. Being 46.130 acres in the Benjamin Lindsay Survey, abstract number 733. 107 Parsons Venture Limited, owner Dusty Partners LLC, prospective buyer Bowler Engineering, civil engineer Curtis Bedford Associates Incorporated, surveyor. Providing a penalty not to exceed $2,000, providing a repealing savings clause, severability clause, and an effective date. Finding that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed was noticed and is open to the public as required by law.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Rob.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is, it's actually one development, but there's 3 separate zoning requests. The property is currently located on the east side of US 75 south of Shepherd, directly across what we know as the Shepherd's Place Plan Development. It's currently zoned M1.5, and so the applicant is requesting 3 different zone changes, as I mentioned. On the northwest corner of the development, they're proposing to change it to C1 to allow retail businesses up at the top corner. The second zone change is from M1.5 to R2 to allow multifamily. That's the yellow shaded area. And then the third zone change is from M1.5 to M1 to still allow some light industrial use at the southernmost tip of this development. Planning and zoning heard this at the last meeting and recommended approval 6-0.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Is there anyone here to address this item this evening? Yes, sir, if you'll state your name and address for the record.
Yes. John Kendall with Bowler Engineering, address 6017 Main Street, Frisco, Texas. Here just representing the applicant, here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, if not, Linda, if you'll read D5 for us, please.
Ordinance 6457, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman amending Chapter 14 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Sherman, Texas, entitled Zoning Ordinance, Article 14.04, entitled General Zoning Ordinance, and Exhibit A, entitled General Zoning Ordinance, Section 6.12, entitled PD, Plan Development District, providing for inclusion in the Code of Ordinances, modifying certain regulations relating to the PD, Plan Development District, providing a repealing clause, a severability clause, and a penalty clause, providing a penalty not to exceed $2,000. Finding that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed was noticed and is open to the public as required by law.
Okay, thank you. Rob?
Mayor, Council, there has been a request from some of our developers that are working on plan developments. As they look at making changes to their development plan, some of the changes that they're recommending are quite minor. And part of their request was to ask if we could review our PD document, district regulations, to see if we could clarify some of the language about minor modifications versus major modifications. So what we did as staff is we worked with our city attorney to go through that language and clearly define what a minor amendment would be to a development plan and what a major amendment would be. Currently, if there's any changes to a development plan, those changes need to go in front of P&Z and council for approval. What these changes would do is allow for minor amendments to have administrative approval. Examples of these are architectural standards or landscaping. Standards would be an example of some of those things that would be considered minor amendments that wouldn't require P&Z and council approval for those changes. There were some other changes that we made from a legal review to make sure that the PD district ordinance was in line with state and local ordinances. So there are changes beyond what the minor amendments language shows in the changes, the recommended changes. If you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer those.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Is there anyone here to address this item this evening? Okay, if not, we'll move on to D6, adopting a revised official zoning map. Rob?
Yeah, by city charter, we are required to, every year, we're required to post an official zoning map. We've had a lot of zone changes this last year, and so we wanted to make sure our official zoning map reflected the changes that have happened this year. Actually, since last year, we updated it.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. Is there anyone here to address this item this evening? Okay. If not, we'll close public hearing and consider the adoption of the ordinances. Council, questions, discussion, comments?
I have a question about 6457, about the minor changes. Did we not, in the fall, do something similar to this? Or is my memory failing me that we did something? Because the example was as far as like, you know, green space and stuff like that. So I'm asking, what is the difference between the two?
I think we talked about needing this. but
Okay,
this-
we did not actually do
That's
it.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and we went through some examples of, you know, some of the things that Rob actually mentioned. Because that was the first round that we got from Bel Air at the time, that we considered minor, that we wouldn't have otherwise had to bring to you, but we did have to bring to you because we didn't have this administrative right to do that as a staff. So this was just as a result of those discussions. And it's valid. Remember, this ordinance isn't the Bel Air PD ordinance. This is our enabling ordinance that relates to every single PD that we have or will have. Okay. So it just gives us a little bit of flexibility without having to bring every single little thing back to the P&Z and council.
So they'll just bring it to the staff. And you guys
Yeah, they would just bring it to staff, and 90% of the time, it's gonna run through Rob's office, and be related to some of these things that, you know, they would be talking with his office about anyway, so.
Okay, that's fine. All right, thank you.
I have another question about that. I know architecturally, that's probably one of the biggest advantages for us having the PD ordinance is to be able to control the types of development and materials that are being used. What type of flexibility and freedoms will that grant on changing that ordinance without having to come to council as far as, you know, can it go from a brick and stucco home to a siding home, or is there things in there that would allow big changes like that?
It would allow for architectural, you know, it's a little bit more broad in allowing minor architectural changes. Obviously, as staff, we would consider something like that to be something that we wouldn't recommend administratively. That's still, that ability for us to deny an administrative change is still applicable to this change.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think it kind of answered is, I mean, I know you guys are going to act in the best interest of the development, but I was just curious if that would allow, you know, I don't know, some strange material that wouldn't have to go through some type of approval process that we wouldn't otherwise allow. Like an 8-lot block home or something like that that wouldn't typically be allowed.
Right. Yeah, and our kind of the way that we would look at that as staff is if it's making it significantly worse, we would not be supportive of that. If it's making it better or making it easier for them to get some certain things, you know, the example in the Bel Air Village PD that they're wanting to make changes is the caliper size of the tree and how they measure the caliper size. The other is the number of windows at the front of the house and the size of the windows. So those are examples of what we would consider minor changes to their PD document.
Okay.
I have some questions involving 64, 54, 55, and 56. Are we talking about, is this the Sherman Crossroads? Where is this exactly? I want to rehash this a little bit.
It's on the east side. So this is Shepherd, this is 75. So it's a southeast corner of Shepherd and 75.
So the other side of the.
This is Shepherd Crossing, planned development over here, Finisar up here, and there's a different development that came to you, not a planned development, but zoning change that came a couple, 2 or 3 months ago.
And this is all currently zoned as.
M1 and a half, which is a medium, manufacturing.
district.
Is that originally zoned as M1 because it was 75 adjacent and unused?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go back to look when it was zoned M1 and a half, but this is in our industrial area and has been, I mean, TI is up here,
Right.
the closest thing, and that's been for 60 whatever years.
Yeah,
so.
considering what's catty corner to that, I
Yeah.
get it. But we're all gonna do, we are in the works with the plan development on the other side of the highway adjacent to this.
Yeah.
So it would basically be making most of this residential with some commercial and leave some of it M1.
Yeah, so it's about 46 acres of light manufacturing, 46 acres, 47 rounded up, of R2, and then 10 acres of commercial, C1. And, you know, I know we don't have it up here, but Shepherd Place is a mixed use as well. It's commercial along the front, it's multifamily and others, you know, in the middle, and then your single family is wrapped on the west side and maybe wraps around the south a little bit, so.
All right. If nobody else has questions, anybody else have questions, then I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt 6453, 6454, 6455, 6456, 6457, and 6458.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. All right, we are to item E1. Linda, if you'll read that for us.
Resolution 1642, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sherman authorizing the execution of a professional services agreement with Burgess and Nyepel Incorporated for the downtown wastewater improvements Phase 1 project. Finding that the meeting at which this resolution is passed was noticed and is open to the public as required by law.
Thank you, Linda. Wayne?
Evening, Mayor, Council.
Evening.
So in the 2021 budget, council directed staff to look at the condition of the sewer lines in the downtown area due to complaints. So in March, we hired Burgess and Nyepel with a contract to do just that. So they televised this whole area and smoke tested all of it, and you know, came back in October with a report on the condition of the lines and identified what lines and manholes needed some attention to. And they split it up into 3 geographical phases of projects. This contract is to execute Phase 1 with Burgess and Nyepel to begin design of that work. They will be analyzing all that data that they put together to try and determine what's the best course of action for replacement or rehabilitation of these lines and manholes, and come to staff with what they recommend, and you know, get us on board and how these should be replaced. That should be done in July, and then at that time we'll add an amendment to this contract for them to produce the final construction drawings to execute what they recommend the city agrees upon. This phase of the contract's about $140,000, and money is still available in the 2021 budget with the TERS.
It's 184, right?
It's 184, yes.
Okay.
I don't know what I said up there. 140.
So, I'm confused. We paid Burgess and Nyepel to come out and look at everything and tell us what's broken and what's not, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna pay them again to tell us the best way to fix what's broken, and then we're gonna pay them again to do the engineering for the things that they told us how to fix it.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, so it's, I would I see it as three different phases of the engineering services. One is identifying the problem, right? Is it inside the buildings, which is private service lines, or is it outside? What's the extent of it, et cetera. This is preliminary engineering, right? That would say, hey, focus on these areas. Here is some strategy that you might use on and cost on how you might fix it. And then the phase 3, which would be coming up after June or July when we get that study, is okay, now we'll use that preliminary engineering to do final engineering work that we can actually go and construct off of.
So this preliminary engineering, like, these are the areas where we can maybe just run a liner. These are the areas where we need to tear the street up and replace whole hog. These are the areas we could do.
Yes.
That is correct.
Okay. Are we spending $1 to save a dime, or will doing this equate to significant savings when we start engineering?
Well, I would say we have to do this
cost.
before we construct anything. Like, our goal isn't the engineering, our goal is the fixing of these things. And I'm just saying, this is part of that engineering effort to get to the answer of what you just asked,
Right.
and how much is it gonna cost.
Okay.
We will,
Yeah, I would say the total construction cost is around that 2.5 to 3 million.
Okay.
So
For phase
spending-
one.
For phase 1, and so you're talking about spending $1 to save a dime. I don't think that spending this $184,000 to do this isn't gonna save us, a fraction of that. It's gonna be hundreds of thousands, if not $1 million, depending on what we do. I mean, we could tell them, just do everything open cut, and we'll deal with it.
No,
Save some design, but.
I'm just trying to I'm just
you
trying
wanna
to.
understand what the scope of this is
Yes.
versus,
Well, I mean, it could put us at a disadvantage, if we're paying them to do the engineering on the things that they tell us that they think that we need to pay them to do the engineering on. I'm just, how involved are we in this process to know, we want you to, specifically say in this area, this or that, are we looking for the lowest cost, for the longest term, that,
Their initial estimates was open cutting and replacing everything. So what they'll be looking at is, in this phase, is determining those areas where maybe they don't have to cut open the street to replace the line, but rather do a trenchless type of method. And analyze the cost of doing that versus the open cut.
right. Well, I know, anywhere that we don't have to do an open cut is a good thing, and we want to do that. I just want to make sure that, I know we're doing this all phases, and we can take this all as one big chunk. I just want to make sure we know what we're getting specifically with this phase, and that's their expertise to tell us in what areas, what remediation technique would be the most cost effective. Is that what we're?
Pretty much, as well as getting
least
our input,
disruptive
how we want to
and
address certain
cost
things.
effective.
Yeah, there's a balance between cost and continuous use of services, right?
Yeah.
There's certain alleys that it's not a big deal if you tear up because nobody's using those alleys. There's other alleys, that's their main way, that's where all the employees park downtown. And so, knowing some of that stuff it's not just about cost, but that would be the, majority of the analysis.
Are we phase 1 with them, we're going, this would be phase 2, let's call it. Right. And then getting the engineering back, would be phase 3. Are we tied into phase 3? If we don't like what we're getting for phase 2, are there other engineering professional?
Yeah, that's why we're not approving that phase of the contract yet.
Okay.
It would be through an addendum, which at that point, if we weren't satisfied with what they're doing, we could go with a different firm.
Okay.
Well, I'm probably putting the cart before the horse here, because we've got a long ways to go, the engineering, et cetera. But I am very concerned about disruptions to the businesses downtown when this happens, and also travel. We have enough problems in Sherman right now with getting from one place to another. So when would you roughly estimate this might take place? Next fall? A year from now?
Fiscal year 23
Okay,
project. For the actual construction?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it'll
We'll be
probably be
starting it then.
after the first or the spring.
Okay.
Fingers crossed, this comes in ahead of the 75 completion.
Uh-huh,
And then that would be discussion that we would have is, do we want to wait a few months and have all the 75 stuff open, or do we want to
okay.
do this now? You know, if it's a year and a half of waiting on TxDOT, that's probably not a reason to delay. If it's a few months, then it may be something that.
I'm dying to ask.
Well, I know
If
our
it's gonna
patrons
be
downtown and
before November, so
the
if
businesses downtown have waited
I'm dying to ask if
patiently,
it's gonna be before
telling us
November
that there was a
2nd.
problem. Now we know that there's really a problem, but I just, we have to look at the overall picture, and that's why
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you're gonna look at it before we actually jump in and tear up another street.
I think they're really ready for that to happen though. Downtown, they're ready to
Oh,
get
I'm sure.
get it going, so.
Yeah, I wish we would've got about October and had this in front of us in November.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like we had 90 days of spinning our wheels. I move to approve as written.
Okay,
Second.
motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. All right, Linda, if you'll read E2 for us, please.
Resolution 6843, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sherman ratifying the city manager's actions in connection with the execution of a purchase and sale agreement with Ernestine White and WK Family Trust for the purchase of approximately 60 acres of land generally located at the northwest corner of Plainview Road and Lacema Road in the extraterritorial jurisdiction, ETJ, of the City of Sherman, Texas. Finding that the meeting in which this resolution is passed was noticed and is open to the public as required by law.
Thank you, Linda. Clint?
So this resolution would ratify city manager's approval of a contract for 60 acres of land south of the water treatment plant. There's been lots of discussions about lots of different land around the plant. We entered into finally an approved contract between our legal team and their legal team, and a price that we could all live with. And so this contract that we entered into and are working through the closing process is for $37,500 an acre. It's approximately 60 acres. The way the contract is written is it can vary by about 10% of that value and still meet that. So we're working with the surveyor to establish the west boundary line. The north boundary line would be the water treatment plant. The south and the east boundary lines are the existing roads. And so determining where that western boundary will tide it up exactly how many acres we need.
The price per acre doesn't vary. The total price varies based on the size of the tract.
I move to approve E2 as written.
Second.
Okay, motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, council. All right, we are to G1, repair and rework of the Dorchester number 8 Trinity and the Shepherd number 1 Woodbine well under emergency designation. Good evening, Tom.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council. So, we've had a couple of wells that went down, and we need to get those replaced or repaired on an emergency basis. Let's see, so the Dorchester 8, you can see kind of on the lower side of the, lower left side of the map, is where that well is. The well quit working, so we had Weisinger, who we use quite a bit. They went out and pulled the pipe, put a TV camera down in there. They found a lot of some kind of rubber. They weren't really sure what it was. In their recommendation, they mentioned that it's going to have to be cleaned out real good before we can put that back into service and some rehabilitation. That's included in the in your dockets. Let's see, the pump also operated with a lower than expected electricity, which can be either bypassed. It had about 120 feet of pipe that was defective, And, so that could be causing it to run low, or it could have a wiring issue. The other well was at Shepherd, on the lower right side. That well's in the Woodbine Aquifer. It was also found to be worn out and electrically dead. It would not turn. The power cable has failed, the electrical test, and locked up motor excessively worn blades and bowls. So we awarded this project to Weisinger on an emergency basis. We need to get these two wells back into service. They comprise of almost 1 million gallons a day. We have about 12 million gallons a day of groundwater. So it's 1/12 of our system, and we need to have those up by summer.
What's their timeline?
We don't have a timeline. He gave us, I gave them 90 days. Normally we give them 60 days per well. That's what we've been doing. Since we had 2 wells, we put them together. I thought they're already going to be mobilized. They should be able to do the 2 in 90. My thoughts.
That's good. So I know this has a cost of $400,000. Is that something, it didn't say if it was already allocated in our current fiscal year budget, or if that's just gonna be an emergency expense that we're gonna have to prepare for?
We've been increasing those funds, like the last couple of years, we had, I think 4 wells went down last year. So I think that we've increased our yearly allocation to well rehabs. It will come out of the utility fund.
We do budget annually for the well repairs.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not specific.
And
to
sometimes
this.
it's 200,000, sometimes it's 800,000, and we just,
Yeah.
it is what it is, right? And we fix
Right.
what needs to be fixed, but we do budget annually for it.
Right.
Okay.
Well, when the 72-inch went down for quite a while, we ran on the whole city on our wells, and so we had a lot more flow than normal. And when you really push the well, that sometimes when it starts making sand, the velocity of the water is actually moving through the aquifer faster. It starts picking up sand. So the less you use them, a little bit better.
Is that the limiting factor for how much you can take out of the well, is when you start pulling sand out of it?
No, the limiting factor is the aquifer itself. It's related to the sand. More porous sand will give you more water.
Gotcha. Where are we? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know.
Okay.
We've given them.
For how much we could take out of the wells?
Oh.
Given the limiting factors, are we taking 80% of what we possibly could take out? Are we taking 50%?
Well, we're taking out about 8 million gallons a day. I wasn't sure what you was talking about. We take out about 7 to 8 million gallons a day out of groundwater, and we have 12 capacity.
Average.
Average.
That's pump capacity. You talking about aquifer capacity?
Yes.
Yeah, we don't know the answer to that.
I was just wondering if we were like limited by some sort of water conservation or.
No, we try to put our wells at least a mile apart so that they're like an inverted cone.
Right.
The water from one doesn't interfere with the other, so that they'll keep the aquifer flowing. So that's why you space them out the way you do. They don't look like they're spaced out, but like on the Dorchester, there's a Trinity aquifer and a Woodbine aquifer. They're not in the same aquifer, so it's not 2 wells at one location. They're in the same aquifer. They're in different aquifers.
Makes sense. Okay.
We need to get this done, so I make a motion to approve the emergency repairs of both wells.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. We're to item G2, recognition of City of Sherman Award, Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting.
Yeah.
Mary,
Good job, Mary.
Yay.
And Tammy.
excellent work.
Once again.
Yeah.
Appreciate your support, Terry. This only happens because we have a lot of support from Robbie and the assistant city managers in just carrying out policies and procedures that allow us to record the transactions correctly and safeguard assets. Tammy Davis does most of the heavy lifting on the audit, so this is really for her, but I appreciate her and the rest of the finance staff.
All right,
Well
thank
done.
you. Congratulations.
Good job, Tammy. Do you want to make a speech, Tammy? No.
In 5 years, I've never heard Cammy say.
I always wondered who she was. Who's that lady that's always with Tammy? I mean, with Mary.
All right, well, congratulations again.
Good job.
All right, we are to item G3, receive presentation on the status of the new Sherman Police Department headquarters. Chief, good evening.
Mayor, council, how are you all?
Hopefully he's coming to say it's almost finished.
Could be.
It's coming in under budget.
Oh, under budget.
I gave a small presentation today during pre-council that, it went about over everybody's head, but,
Try us. We might get it.
Okay, I will. We are actually at 100% construction right now. We are constructing, we are completely engulfed in construction. And, nobody really knew what that meant, but it's exactly what it sounds like. It means they're working. So, let's see here. So, significant events as of today. Of course, we had our groundbreaking in December. We appreciate the council and city management getting us to that point and having that done. Took just over 160 piers that they drilled down 20 plus feet into the bedrock and kept going. So one of the positives, and you'll see that here in a little bit, we had budgeted to encase every single one of those. We only had to encase 2. So that's
nice.
Great. Yeah.
Okay. Saving money.
Site utilities are about at completion. So last week we met with our contractors. They were at 80% completion. They expect those to be done this week. Not sure. They definitely did have a couple of days of bad weather in there that they weren't able to work. So, but I don't know. And Jason's going to be here to present as well. If the contractor said whether or not that really is going to have an effect. But the anticipation was to have that completed this week. The grade beams for the eastern half of the main building were poured last month. So what are they doing this month? They're going to finish the grade beams out. The utilities underneath the foundation, so electrical, mechanical, plumbing, they're working on all that. And they're going to pour the driveway. Supposed to get lime delivered this week to pour the western half of the driveway. And so we'll be getting that done. Slab scheduled for March, and then supposed to be going vertical in April. So it's starting to speed up a little bit. A lot of the things that we've seen have been underground, and Jason's going to walk us through some pictures here real quick to take you through that.
Hello. So we have hundreds of pictures. I'm not going to bore you with all of them. To us, it's pretty exciting because we deal with criminals all day, but now we get to do with something a little bit different. So it's kind of exciting for us. So of course, this is just some pictures of the groundbreaking that y'all were at. So this was the drilling of the piers. As you can see, they'll drill the pier. The second picture is where they start putting the metal, the rebar down in the pier, and then just pouring some concrete down the pier. Like the chief said, we were lucky that they only had water on 2 of those. And then this is some of the big deep ditches they had, or trenches they had to dig for the stormwater. I think this one over here was about 17 or 18 foot down, so it goes way, way down there. So if you were to fall off it, then you would definitely know it. So they've almost completed almost all of the stormwater, I believe. Last week they were wrapping that up. This is kind of a drone footage that Byrne took for us. As you can see, you can see where the grade beams. This is the main building here in the front. Give a pointer. Yep. Top button. So this right here is going to be the front stairs of the police department. So as you come up, and here you can see the handicap ramp that'll be going this way, go down this way. The main parking lot will be here. The chief's office will be right here. He's already made sure to point out his map.
Corner window office.
But these forms here, these were the grade beams that were poured last week on this half of the building. As you can see, these, I don't know if you can see that or not, but every one of those has a spot where it ties into the piers that were drilled. They're setting up the foundation for this half of the building to get those grade beams poured, hopefully next week or the week after, I'm not exactly sure. And then back here is going to be where the annex building is.
And you give us a north, south, east, west?
Sure, I sure can. So this is here, this is going to be West Travis Street, this is North Gate, so north is kind of right here, the building kind of faces northeast. It sits up pretty high, it has a really good view of downtown area. So here's the front of the building, and the annex will be back this way.
So the front of the building's facing northeast.
Yes,
Right.
northeast right here. Dispatch area will be over in this area, and back here will be the patrol area, where the officers come in, and there will be the locker room in this area as well. Here's some pictures of those grade beams. As you can see, there's a lot of steel and a lot of wood that goes into building this. So it's not just your everyday housing construction. There's a lot that goes into building this type of building. There they are when they poured those grade beams week before last. And then this is just a
Junior, can you get that to play?
Oh, is this a video? Yeah, it's a video. So as you can see here, this is the front of the building. This is North Gate. This is West Travis Street again. This will be the main parking lot. Here's the steps. And this is the part of the west portion that there'll be an entrance over in this area here. And they'll start pouring this paving in the front part of the parking lot and on this side here. Once that's done, they'll move the construction trailer over here. That way they can finish this remainder of the building here. So this was taken last week, so they've actually done, or the week before last, they've actually done a little bit more work since then. Here they're continuing work on some of the sewer lines that will eventually tie to a lift station over in this area. This will be parking lot for the employees, and then up here, you can see where they're starting to work on the retaining wall, which it's about 5 feet to go up to the annex building, which is going to be located right here. I don't know if I think it's their back around.
Is that just a staging area for them there?
Yeah, that's just their materials and stuff like that.
So that whole area had been built up when they dug the, this detention or retention or which, but both there. And we're really fortunate, and I know that there was city staff that went into this. When they put that dirt there, it was very compacted. The construction company has been very pleasantly surprised at the quality that the ground is in. Doesn't necessarily mean that the dirt's any better, but the area that they have to work on has been really good, so they've been pleasantly surprised with that. We are currently within our budget and on time, so we're happy with that. It's not that we haven't had obstacles come, but I do want to express gratitude again to y'all and city management. Jason has been spearheading this for us at the police station, and so I'm grateful for that and his work on that. And then the way that our construction company went about building the contingencies, we have ran into issues with the current supply market, the supply chain, the market, issues of that nature. However, the way that we built those things has proven to be effective. And so we've been able to operate within our budget and stay on time. And so right now, as things present themselves, I'm very happy with the way that, of course, Aaron, our architect, has performed, the construction company, Burn Construction, and grateful for Jason and leading it. So, any questions about where we're at?
Great job.
We'll have another update, probably, if not, at the latest at the budget workshop, but maybe between now and then as well. And we'll have a drone update in the next meeting or two, just of our quarterly updates that we give you. So.
I did have one clarifying question. So you said the dirt came from the lake, and you're referring to Danny Jones Lake over there?
That's right.
Okay, just checking.
That's right. That's Lake Danny Jones there.
Lake Danny Jones.
It wasn't free though.
They compacted it really well. So, yeah, Lake Danny Jones is where it's from.
All right.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, awesome presentation. All right, council, we have appoint, remove, or consider qualification to boards and commissions for the Main Street Advisory Committee. We have any nominations or?
Did we get any of those?
Yes.
We got applications from Jason Busey and Verna Morneau.
Well, I'll make, if nobody else has a recommendation, I will recommend Aaron Busey.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we are to council comments. Henry, I'm gonna start with you tonight.
I'm good. I don't have no comments.
Okay.
None for me, Mr. Mayor.
No comment.
All right.
I just want to thank all the staff that continued to work through the 2 days of, or 3 maybe, of bad weather. We know that we were all hunkered down at home, and many of you were out working, so thank you for taking care of us and keeping everything up running.
I want to thank the fire department for all that they did for their banquet. It was really nice. I know a lot of people didn't make it because of the weather and just people being under the weather, so it was really nice as well. Guys, keep up the good work. Is any of the fire guys there?
Chief Danny.
Oh, I didn't see you over there. Great job, man. Hey, great guest speaker as
That
well.
was a
You guys needed to
fantastic
be,
guest speaker.
you needed to be there for that
Oh,
one. That
wow.
was awesome. It was awesome. Awesome job.
Congratulations again to our financial group, and
Mhm.
I came from the Sherman School Board, and Sherman ISD did a fantastic job with their finances, so it's great to come to another organization as a board member or a city council. If the finances are taken care of and we're getting accolades for it, that makes our job easier, so thank you.
All right, just a few announcements this evening. Please join us this Thursday, February 10th for ribbon cutting at Super Shack Seafood and Grill on Texoma Parkway. Highly recommended from Darren Holland. This was one of the businesses that took advantage of our retail recruitment program. Please come out and show them support. It's at 4 p.m. Also, Sherman Parks and Rec has rescheduled the annual father-daughter dance this year for February 18th, so it's not too late to get your tickets for this really fun event. Mark your calendars for Sherman's annual St. Patrick's Day Parade on March 12th in beautiful, historic downtown Sherman. Make plans to bring the family out at 11 a.m. for all sorts of Irish fun and specials from our great downtown businesses. Also, Neblett Elementary's Texas Reads One Book Kickoff has been rescheduled to Saturday, February 26th. The event will take place at the Sherman Animal Shelter starting at 1 p.m., so don't forget about that. All right, City Council will now hold a closed executive session pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act at Section 551.071 to receive legal advice regarding pending litigation, and at Section 551.074 to deliberate the appointments to the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee. So at 5:46, we'll recess into executive session. Thank you.